Hi, my name is Rich of housebarons.com. My brother Dave and I renovate houses, and we like to show you how to do projects yourself so that you can save a ton of money. In a previous video, we showed you how to create custom shiplap siding. In this video, we're going to show you how to install it. All right, with the ceiling done, our next job is to work on these walls. We're going to go with shiplap because there's all this glue. There used to be paneling on these walls, and to get that glue off, we basically have to cut all this drywall off. So we don't really want to do that. All right, here's a giant load. Here's 600 feet of pine. It's well balanced on the blocks. There's 2 different straps on it, so we are able to get home safely. All right, so step 1 to putting shiplap siding in the basement is to go buy all the boards. And so this is a mix of 8-foot, 10-foot, and 12-foot pine boards, and they're 1 by 8s. And we estimated at 8 inches, it's going to take over 900 feet, linear feet, of pine. Okay, there's Caleb and his dog Avi. Hey Avi. Hi sweetie. Alright, so now that wall has been painted just with the background color, and we're going to be putting these boards up, and they're going to have an 1/8 of an inch gap between them to allow for expansion and contraction. And so if anybody can see through that gap, now they'll just see this dark gray background. One key part about putting up the siding is you don't want some really thin little board either at the bottom or at the top. So what we did is we're measuring out the height of the wall, taking away a 1/2 inch for the flooring that we're going to put in, but then we also have to take into account the width of these boards, plus we want an 1/8 of an inch space between each board. So it's a lot of calculating, but what we're trying to determine is if we need to cut one of these boards down like 1 inch or something like that, and then put up all full boards, and then the very top row would also then need to be cut down the same amount as the beginning row. So then we're going to have as full a board as we can at the top and the bottom. And oddly, we just did the calculation. Now our problem down here is we've got different levels on our ceiling. Over there we've got a bulkhead, a bunch of HVAC ducts are going through there, so we're not actually going to worry about the wall we're starting with. We're worrying about all these other walls because they're all at the same height. And what we found out for us is kind of interesting is we're going to be able to use full boards the whole way and only have to cut like a 1/2 inch off the top board. So that's not even going to be noticeable. But if you're giving this a try, make sure to have your first row and your last row be close to the same width. And then you have to do the math and figure out what that's going to be. The other thing is the starting level. The first row needs to be level. And so we have this really cool tool. This is a laser level, and it projects, we use it all the time for multiple projects. It projects this laser beam horizontally and vertically, whatever you want. And you can see it there on the far wall. And so we've measured up, including the 1/2 inch that we're going to do for flooring, and that's our starting line right there. We're going to install these using a nail gun, and that will show us exactly where to put the first row. Okay, before we can nail these boards on, the first thing we have to do is find all the studs in the wall. And so you can use a stud finder. There's all kinds of little battery powered ones, and ours isn't cooperating at the moment. So we're kind of going an old fashioned way where we don't really care about this wall too much because we're going to be putting these boards over it. So what we did is we just made a nail hole in the wall and just kept going over 1 inch until we actually hit this stud, and it's marked with the arrow. And then they're generally 16 on center, so we measure over 16 inches, and sure enough, there's the next one. right there, measure over 16 inches from that, and there's the next one. So the studs, as I say, they're running vertically probably every 16 inches. So once you find one of them, generally you can find them for the whole wall. So you want to get those measured out all the way, and then you'll know where you can hammer the boards into the wall. We are using a Hitachi nail gun. This one is the NT65MA4S. And the size nails we're going with are 15 gauge. These pine boards are like 3/4 inches thick, and then we want to drive it into the stud a little. So we're using 2.5 inch nails. Okay, here's our first board of this project. Okay, so we're doing a top and bottom nail on every stud. So what happened?
We hung the first board.
Hey, what does Avi think about that?
He's scared by the nail gun.
All right, well, a million more to go. All right, so as we're putting up the second row, there's a couple of things to consider. Number one would be, these boards, we're using 8-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot boards, but even so, you don't want all the seams to all be on the left side or all over on the right side. So you just want them kind of to be random. So one idea would be, you could start a board on the left by cutting a 12-footer in half and just, start out with a 6-foot board and then put maybe a 12-foot board, something like that. And just be conscious of seams in the middle and on the right and on the left, and just to kind of vary it. The other thing is that we want each board to end on a stud so that it can get anchored in. Otherwise, you're going to have the ends are just going to be kind of like flapping in the breeze. So what we're doing is measuring them out. We know where the studs are, and so like there's a stud right here, and so we measured that so that board would end perfectly on that stud. And now when we nail it, we'll be able to nail that one in, and then the next board coming up will also be on that same stud. So we'll actually have 4 nails in that one stud. And then here's something else Caleb was just working on. This is a little bit tricky. So when you get around an outlet like that, luckily these boards are 8 inches wide or 7.5, something like that. So we use this tool here. It's one of our favorite. It's called a multi-tool, and it just it's able to make those nice exact cuts like that. And then when we put the outlet plate on it, it's going to look perfect. So that's cut very well in there. So Caleb's dad, who is Dave, he told us that we should be able to get this whole project done start to finish in a day. And we're not agreeing with that, because just the staining alone has been taking quite a while, and then there's a lot of measuring and cutting at this stage of it, because you don't want to just throw boards on a wall, you want it to look good. So I guess Caleb was just saying, don't underestimate the amount of time that is going to be required to knock this one out. I think it'll get going faster as you get going with this project, but at the beginning there's a little bit of startup time. We use these when we do tile work. There's these little spacers, and we use them for tile work, and when they're flat, they're 1/8 of an inch wide. And so we're taking the spacers, and basically we're just laying them on top of the last board we put on, like that, and then we'll put the new board on top of there, and we'll have spacers every few feet, and that will keep a little space, just a little space between the boards to allow for contraction and expansion. Otherwise, over time, the boards could just kind of buckle, which would be a real problem. All right, well, there's 3 rows, and it's near the end of our day, so we're going to stop here, and we will resume it for some more fun tomorrow. All right, so now here we are around a window, and we just got a little pine board, just made 45 cuts with these like spacer boards around the casement of the window, and then it'll ultimately be covered by molding. So each time we add a board, we've been putting the level on it, and as we go, we're either pushing up or pulling down really with each nail so we can get a real level row. So here's what's great about having a laser level. As we're going around the corners here, and we're trying to keep that bottom row exactly level, we can shoot that beam all the way across the room. And you can see it's continuing on over into this other corner. So we can get all of the rows at exactly the same height. All right, so now we're at a part, it's a little bit tricky. This outlet box is kind of right in the middle of one of these boards. So we're going to use a jigsaw on this. Dave's making a starter hole there for the jigsaw using a drill. And then here is our jigsaw. There we go. Get around the corner, he's doing a bunch of short angles. All right, nicely done. All right, so there is the outlet, and you can see that we put an outlet cover on that, it'll look perfect. All right, now all of our custom shiplap siding has been installed. We think it looks great, and we hope that this helps you to install your own custom shiplap siding. If you got anything out of the video, please hit the like button, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please consider subscribing because we have a ton of home renovation videos coming out soon. So good luck with your project, and thanks much for viewing.